Alright, Shalom, Shalom. This is your brother Issachar coming back at you with another lesson. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect and the 144,000 scattered across the four corners of the earth. Shalom to you. Alright, in today's lesson, we're gonna go into when these leaders and politicians around the world shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh. Because right now what you have happening in the news is the tariffs. Okay, you got the tariffs going on between the United States and China, but what happened is that they came to an agreement right now, so that's just rocking the people back to sleep, because the U.S. and China came to a small agreement on their tariffs, so a lot of people think, oh, see, it's gonna be all right, because Trump and China, the United States and China have an agreement for their with tariffs. But that's just the calm before the storm, because now you have the United States has new threats, tariffs against the EU, the European Union, which is worse, because all these banks, starting with Wells Fargo, Chase Bank, Bank of America, all these banks, they're all central banks. They go back to the international bankers, which is located right there in London. All right, all the money systems, all the main money, all right, it all goes back to London. It's all over there in Europe. Okay, it's London. All right, so now the U.S. Trump wants to put sanctions on the EU, wants to put tariffs on the EU, and Trump's not even looking to come to an agreement with the EU, because he pretty much wants to do it his way, and that's it, So that is that Revelation chapter 17, and we'll get it after this one. Right here, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 3. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them. Right, because this scripture is perfect, because, just because, United States and China come to a small agreement, with China, it doesn't mean that, okay, everything's going to be fine. And, remember, these FRNs are going to collapse. Civil war is going to happen. You still have, millions of foreign troops here and sleeper cells here in America. There's about to be a full out war out here. So what that does right there is it it just kind of rocked the people back to sleep, because people assume like, well, they're coming to agreement with China, so everything's gonna be all right. It's not gonna be all right. This is why Isaiah 33 and 6 is written, and knowledge and wisdom shall be the stability of that time, because these elites and leaders around the world, it doesn't matter what they say on that podium, they're not gonna fool the elect, because the elect have the words from the Lord. They believe in the Lord, because the elect knows what's going to happen out here. See? So let's continue. Let's start from the top again. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. See that? And they shall not escape, because, no one's going to escape. Exactly. All right, so when these leaders say that, they came to an agreement, this and that between U.S. and China, so what? Okay, that don't change anything. These elites are pushing for the New World Order. All right, this place is about to be shut down. It don't matter if they came on a small agreement, whatever. Whatever deal they worked out, you got to understand, prophecy is going to fulfill. Okay? Prophecy is going to fulfill. And this is something that you have to understand, because the in order for these elites to make that chip mandatory, the FRNs, the Federal Reserve Note, the American dollar bill, must and will crash. And remember, the American dollar is the world reserve currency. All right, so it impacts the world. Remember that. As travail upon a woman with child, they shall not escape. Right, okay, they shall not escape. So right there, just telling you that there's why is that there's no one gonna escape? Because this is the prophecy. This is prophecy from Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. All right, only the elect are gonna be covered in this time, because even the elites, at the end of the day, after they do, their little halftime show, put people on guillotines and all that, because remember, that's their role. They're playing their role. Okay, remember, they're not just doing this on their own and like, oh, you know what? Let's just get together and set up the UN troops in the United States and let's just put guillotines over there. No, that's the prophecy of the Lord. Okay, John the Revelator saw those guillotines 2,000 years ago. It's spoken about in Revelation chapter 20, verse 4. All right, just to show you that these elites are not doing their own program. This is the program of the Lord. It was spoken about thousands of years ago. It was already written. Okay, it was already written, which means that they're not doing their own will. See, because there would be a question mark, But John the Revelator spoke about that, a long time ago. Isaiah, Jeremiah spoke about martial law. Ezra's. See? So that's an evident token to let you know that the Lord is in control, and that the Lord is in control, and that these elites are not doing their own. They're not doing their own thing, So also, what you have right now happening. So that's on the new tariffs, okay, with the U.S. now and the EU, European Union. All right, the European Union is major. Okay, that's part of the beast. All right, that's a major deal there. So also what you have is now you have Trump spending money on those nuclear plants because they want to give power to their AI. So what's all that about? Okay, that's all about because they want to bring all this AI on the streets, and they will, because once this place goes under martial law, all right, they're gonna have robots out here. Okay, it's not just gonna be sleeper cells, and stuff like that, which they do have them here. Okay, UN troops, they have that. Okay, militias, all that, spies everywhere from all sides. There's all kinds of teams here. You gotta understand that. All right. Also, you gotta remember, these elites, once they really start to shut things down, they're gonna bring out their toys, their AI. Okay, they're gonna bring out their drones. They're gonna bring out their androids. They literally have Terminators, robots, robotic dogs. See that? So that's all going towards, that's all going towards that new world order, of total chaos. You gotta remember, they're actually gonna be gunning people down out here in the street, because there's going to be so much of a rebellion, anarchy, because remember, they're going to cut off the food supply and all that. Okay, your running water, your gas, your electricity. So people are going to riot. Okay, it's gonna be how long wheels out here, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Psalms chapter 55 verse 21. So that's it with that nuclear base, because they wanna empower more the AI. All right, remember Elon Musk said that he wants AI to take over all human jobs. Take over for humans. So where's that leave humans? They're gonna eliminate you. They're gonna delete. They want to delete 6 billion people out here worldwide. See, and how do you think they're gonna do that? Okay, by pestilence and actually gunning people down. Starving people out, and actually with their robots and their militias, with their soldiers, they're actually gonna be gunning people down out here, hunting people down. Yeah, it's gonna be. Imagine that. It's a time like never before. Remember, one of the main agendas of the New World Order is to depopulate. That means to get rid of humans. This is what people don't understand. When they see those little robots on the streets, like Coco and all that go and deliver food and all that, people take pictures like, oh yeah, they're all smiling, like, oh look at that's cute, that's funny. Yeah, pretty soon Coco's gonna have a semi-automatic, gun on top of that thing, gunning people down. You know what I'm saying? And that's what people don't realize, like they have AI out there ready, okay, and that they're gonna unleash it. Psalms 55 and 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, because that's how these elites talk. Like, yeah, everything's gonna be okay. We're working things out with China. You know what I'm saying? Nah, but war's in his heart, because they talk a good game. Like, hey, everything is cool. They're for the American people and all that. No, okay, they're for the New World Order. Okay, I don't care what you're talking about. All right, these politicians and rulers are all for the New World Order. See, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war's in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawing swords. All right, just like those jabs. Remember, like those jabs, when the first pandemic. All right. They acted like, oh yeah, come get them, and people who got them, they still got the pandemic, they still got the 19. You know what I'm saying? People who took those juice, they can't even walk no more. Some people actually lost their lives after they took it. So so what's really going on here? Because they're not here for. Remember, these elites don't care about the people's benefit. Okay, they're in for their agenda, their plans. Revelation chapter 17 and verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. Okay, that's exactly what you're seeing right now with the EU. Okay, because now that U.S. and China came to an agreement, all right, with their tariffs, that's only temporarily. But you got to remember, China and the U.S., they're enemies. China has all kinds of sleeper cells in America ready, ready for war out here. This is what you got to understand. All right. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. So NATO and the EU, they're going to hate America. Okay, America's that whore right here in Revelation 17:16. And shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Because not only is Russia, China, and North Korea, Iran going to shoot their ICBMs over here, but so is America's allies. See, because you can already see it, Remember how when Trump didn't want to help Ukraine no more, who stepped in? Okay, it was the EU and NATO stepped in and said, okay, yeah, we're going to help them, because they're clashing right now. All right, because although these elites, they're in for the New World Order, they still want things their way. Because that's one thing about the so-called white man. Okay, they're control freaks. They want things their way, so they don't even care, man. They don't even care. They treat their own friends like shit. You know, that's why NATO and the EU are getting tired of America, because they're tired of how America is, you know? Because America are the bullies on the block. I don't care what you're talking about, because they had the most powerful military. So that's why America goes around pushing people around, doing whatever they want, because they have the biggest guns, you know? If someone don't agree with it, what are people going to do? You know, America's going to go in there and say, oh, you're not going to go along, you know? See, and they'll push them out of the way, you know? America's going to get what they want because they have the strongest military. So they've been treating people like shit, you know? Even their own allies. So the allies are like, hey, we're getting tired, you know, we're getting tired of this hoe, you know? See that, you know? Because, you know, America always gets the cream of the crop. Okay, America always gets everything their way. So these other nations are like, you know what, how with this place? You know, America's always, you know, gets the cream of the crop, you know, cream of the crop, you know? We want next, you know? How come we can't get, you know, what America got, you know? See? So these nations are mad at America. Yeah, they're still using America right now for business, of course, you know? Because that's what a lot of these nations do. But just because they have business with each other don't mean that they like each other. It's just like anything else, like in business, you know. Money talks. You know, yeah, you know, they're dealing with each other because of business, this and that, you know, trade, oil, whatever, what have you, you know. But that don't mean that they don't like each other. All right here, Revelation chapter 17, verse 17. For the Most High have put it in their hearts to fulfill His will, and to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast. See that? So the Most High, Yahweh, put it in their hearts, their minds, to fulfill His will. So right there, ladies and gentlemen, okay, we're in Revelation chapter 17, verse 17, to fulfill His will. So the Lord and the angels, okay, the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Shai, tell the angels, and the angels program people, the leaders, when they sleep, because it's not that right there is to let you know that this is not the will of the elites, it's the will of the Lord. See, and to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of the Lord Yahweh Bashim Shai shall be fulfilled. See that? So this is this is something that a lot of our people don't realize, and the world don't realize, because they think, oh, the elites are, bringing this and that. Yeah, that's the Lord's program. Okay, the Lord created the Edomites for wicked. Okay, remember, the so-called white man, the Edomites are the sword of the Lord, but on the left-hand side. Yeah, who do you think controls the left-hand side? Yahweh. All right, this is what you got to understand. See? All right, so that's it on today's lesson. Stay prayed up. All right, keep the faith. On your feet, soldier. Shalom.